TD have travelled to Brussels. We've been here a couple of days. We've been here at ROBOJOB's factory. Now, these products are supplied in the UK by Hydrofeed, and Hydrofeed have brought the pair of us, Gio and myself, here to not just review the products that they have, but talk about automation in general and what impact it can have and should have on your business. Gio, we're going to touch on a few points, things that we've learned and picked up over the last day or so. What are some of those highlights for you?
There are many highlights really, Paul. I think that the mill assist is certainly one of them. I've learned a lot more about this technology. So effectively, Paul, people are not automating low volume work on 5th axis and 3-axis machines in the UK because there's a big misconception that they don't need to. But they do need to. And maybe it may be because the technology to automate small to low volume batches wasn't maybe readily available, but it is now with the mill assist. The technology has simplified the way in which you can do so.
I think what's been really interesting for me is that companies are often prepared to invest, say, £350,000, £400,000 in a mill turn machine to do complex parts, to do one-hit operations. However, they don't maybe think to themselves, if I bought a lower cost machine and implemented some automation like this, I would actually not only be able to satisfy that complex machining requirement, I would also have a machine, or let's say a production that costs less, so I can also do lower cost components and still make money on it. That's one point.
I think absolutely. I think we've learned a lot of different aspects of automation, and I think that we've also learned that it's absolutely a necessity for the UK manufacturing and engineering industry to embrace it and to use it if we want to remain competitive within Europe. I mean, this is not a saturated market, it's a mature market here in Belgium, and the results speak for themselves.
Yeah, and there's something called the bullwhip effect, which actually Paige was talking to me about, and that's essentially, in my head, it's a bit like feast and famine. Machine shops these days, they can go from having lots of work to very little amounts of work, and how do you kind of make sure you've got the right production capacity or capabilities to satisfy both ends? And with this type of solution, it enables you to do that. If the volumes are low, it doesn't matter, because you can actually, you can still do lower volumes with this. It's not about production in a sense, but that bullwhip effect is very true of UK manufacturing today.
I totally agree. I think effectively, automation, what can it do for your business? It can reduce the cost per part. You can essentially run for 24/7, and if you've got the work. And if you haven't, when you do run it, you're running consistently. You can plan and schedule your work accordingly. So there's so many different elements to automation, and I think that it's a necessity now. It's not something that it's a luxury item. If you want to be competitive, you need to automate. And I think the sliding head example and analogy is the perfect example of that.
And I think when you look at lower cost economies these days, we're competing against lower cost economies. How do you do that? Well, you need to be able to have equipment that can potentially take the labour out of it. Obviously, there's that physical relief that they offer, but other points that they talk about is, of course, increased revenue as a result of the machine actually being more efficient, decrease in labour cost, lower warehouse stocks. Now, this is important. How often do you within your company make too many parts so that you can keep them on the shelf so that you can satisfy that customer if he comes back to reorder? Well, you don't want to do that, because you don't want the inventory. You want to be able to react at the point that he asks you for product, and that's what you can do as a result of automation as well.
Absolutely, and I think we can't stop but to also mention the tower, the new innovation from ROBOJOB, which not only automates the components but can also automate your setups and tooling. This is the latest thing, taking it to another level, really.
And I think the big difference here is this is industrial, a very industrial product, industrial robots as opposed to cobots. We've learned a lot about the differences between those as well, and how easy these are not only to install but to program and learn on as well. We really are behind in the UK on automation, and it's something we need to address. That's why we're here. We've learned a lot. You should obviously watch more of the videos that are going to come out on specific points that we've touched on this afternoon.
I think you